Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Break Glass podcast. In case of propaganda, break glass. In case of imperialism, break glass. And I'm joined by my co-host, Walaa. Assalamu alaikum. How are you doing?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I'm good. How are you doing?
You know how it is. Always a lot going on. I'm really glad that we're doing this because, like last time, we're able to go a little bit deeper into things. We have a little bit more time.
Never enough time to, like, the extent of what's happening, right? Never enough time.
For real, for real. So we have a few stories that we want to do is go a little bit deeper into certain things and then maybe at least give some highlights with others. And what I wanted to start with today is what's going on in Lebanon, which I think a lot of people think that because a ceasefire has been announced that all is good, but we'll be able to see very clearly the intention of the genocidal regime. And like I generally like to do, I like to share some posts from X as I go through. And here you could see there's a wave of Israeli airstrikes across southern Lebanon. This was April 28th, so a few days ago, including Tulin, Tibnin, and Shara. You can see here, this is Israeli troops blowing up a popular El Safina, which means boat restaurant. The restaurant opened a decade ago as part of a project aimed at boosting tourism in Lebanon. Obviously, these are Hezbollah strongholds that they are
I
blowing up.
was
You can see
gonna
clearly.
say, like, from the video, you can see how targeted this is. Like the video exploding the actual restaurant itself. What is the justification now? Were there like weapons underneath the hull of the boat? Were they mixing in a little bit of TNT with the hummus? Like, or is it just destruction at Abu Janab?
So I went to when I was in Lebanon, I went to a boat restaurant, but this is on the other side. This boat that they blew up is in the south. But I went to one in the more north area in Trablus or Tripoli, they say in English. And it's like such a nice, just chill, like, what they're going after is just people. It's people that have a business or they have a restaurant or they have, they're trying to do some good, whether it's hospitals or schools. They're just going after the people. That's all it is. And this is the heartbreaking part that you come across. But obviously, they claim that they're going after terrorists or they're going after Hezbollah or they're going after the Shia. But here in my next tweet that I'm going to show is nobody is spared. And you could see that they're just destroying this historic nuns monastery and Christian school in Lebanon. And they're purposely trying to eliminate the Christian villages. The Drop Site News is reporting, and this is what I was saying a little bit earlier, where this is what they're saying. This is their claims that they know this is not terrorist infrastructure. We're destroying everything. And what I would say to these IOF soldiers is, bro, just stop talking. Why are you baiting yourself out? These are Hezbollah strongholds. Just go with what's easy and what's natural. Nobody's checking you anyway. But I guess that's what makes it so brazen, right? That they could just come out and say whatever they want to say.
100%. I hate the names of their operations. Just a side note, Operation Silver Plow. You almost wonder, is
Seriously.
there a biblical reference there? Why? Because what was the other one? Operation Eternal Darkness for what they just did in Lebanon. And now Silver Plow, I'm assuming, is like the destruction, right? The assurance that they're gonna have that no one is going to re-inhabit these areas and help them create their buffer zone and slowly push their borders northwards.
I mean, if Satan was to initiate an operation, would not eternal darkness be the name he would pick? Honestly. Like if Satan's sitting down,
100%.
he's talking to his people. He's like, "All right, guys, we're about to launch an operation here. What names you got?"
It is the
It'd be like,
most apt, like completely devoid of, and you know the significance of nur, right? Light in Islam, it just eternal darkness. Like not only is it like it carries the connotations of war crimes because that's what they do is they destroy electrical infrastructure and everything that can sustain life and hospitals and people's movements. But then also just eternal darkness, like completely devoid. You're right, like just evil, 100% pure evil.
it's a great point you make because consistently and continuously in the Quran, Allah is talking about nur and bringing light to people's hearts and to the people in general and civilization. And the Quran itself is described as nur, and then here they are, they're just trying to bring darkness everywhere that they go. But
100%.
just to highlight to our viewers a little bit about how bad the situation is. The Army's plan, dubbed Operation Silver Plow, reportedly assigns unit quotas for homes destroyed with contractors. So, like when you go to a store to buy stuff, like let's say a shoe store, and they have quotas, or if you're supposed to be selling different material, you have quotas that you have to reach, maybe how many contacts you've spoken to. In Israel, quotas are used in different ways. They're war crime quotas. So how much war crimes, have you reached your war crime quota for the day? It's just like insane. And it's the same thing that we see,
War
with five,
criminal
with,
of the week.
yeah, like I bet that's like a thing there, like
And
that's
they're
war
like
criminal.
vying for it, right? Like, I hit my quota 3 weeks running, and then everyone's like, why can't you be like that unit over there? Okay? They come
Look how
in,
many
they
homes they destroyed.
lie.
What are you wasting time
You're
doing? There are
lacking
people's homes to destroy, you
It's
know?
insane. And
Um,
okay, this is really bad, but do you remember when a bunch of contractors tripped a mine in Rafah and there was
yeah.
this whole like, oh my God, Hamas is back and they're shooting us. And it turns out, no, they were just, and it's like they have an office somewhere with a sign, days without accidents, like the Simpsons.
Yeah.
And then the bonus would be, how many people did you kill while you did this? It's thick and twisted.
We're gonna get to another story about the Sumud Flotilla, and I'm gonna go through a little bit the layers of, breaches of international law that they have stacked on top of each other. So they don't like to just do one. Again, they're very efficient. They have
Very.
quotas. They have like systems in place where they make sure they maximize the amount of destruction, war crimes, breaches of international law that they're able to undertake. And then since March 2nd, Israel's offensive has killed at least over 2,600 people and displaced 1.6 million people, despite a ceasefire extended to May 17, daily airstrikes. And this is kind of like a viral quote online, which is, "You cease, we fire." I don't understand how anybody could take any ceasefire with Israel seriously. It's just, what are you doing? The historical fact that they have no regard for any concept of a ceasefire at all.
I'm sure you remember, Ahmed, during the Biden administration, the demand was ceasefire, right? Ceasefire now, ceasefire now. Their redefinition of the word ceasefire, so it was even more detached. Because, I mean, even just reading that line, despite the ceasefire, like what ceasefire? Before this escalation, they were bombing Lebanon almost every day since 2024. Since the last ceasefire. They were bombing them constantly, and then they just escalate. And it's like this is an opportunity for them to advance their plan. And a ceasefire is like where they're like, okay, we got to pump the brakes a little, let's slow it down. Take it easy, shway. We'll drop the quotas. Our boys got to go home and
Yeah.
relax, see the family, get the economy back up again. And then they just kick it into high gear.
You know what? That's a good point. And maybe for our next podcast, we can delve into a little bit of this point that you made, which is not in a sympathetic way, but just to show the reality of the IOF on the ground. Where are they? Are they successful or not? I want to just talk about the complete collapse in regards to actual, I want to, they're called soldiers. I don't know if you call them maybe soldiers, just war criminals, but we can talk a little bit about that. But again, here I'll show the next one here, which is from Hala Jaber. She's done some really good work reporting about what's going on in Lebanon, especially. And again, Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz, during his meeting with the UN coordinator of Lebanon, he told her that Hezbollah chief Naim Qassem is playing with fire. He warns that Hezbollah responds to Israeli violations. I doubt he said it like that, but basically he said it like that, which is fire will come out and burn the cedars of Lebanon.
Yeah.
It's not like they've just gone full psycho mode,
100% full genocide, ethnic cleansing. I mean, شو أفرقت الcedars of Lebanon and the olive trees of Palestine, right? It's just the continuation of what's happening, what we've seen happen, what the world has allowed to happen for decades, extending. Wallahi, it's heartbreaking. And those
I
layers
mean,
of war crimes, I almost wonder, is that why it's not dealt with? Because is this purposeful? Is this a part of it? The layering of war crimes, the intentionality behind it? Because where would you even start?
I mean, I think this is what a lot of us were saying during the early periods of the Gaza genocide, which is, it's not, even for people that were like, it's on the other side of the world, it has nothing to do with it. It's like, no, it's coming to your land. It's gonna spread. And
Mhm.
for people that are looking at it from a very selfish way, whether it's affecting your prices at the grocery store and gases, and it's gonna keep going in other aspects of your life. But also, we heard about how the Edmonton police is training with the IOF. So
Yes.
these tactics that they are using are not limited to just Gaza. They are a testing ground to then import across the globe and even across the Western world. And we're seeing, just unprecedented amounts of limits on freedom of speech, people getting jailed and harassed, like all these things, just taking away people's freedoms in the West at the behest of a genocidal entity. And this is why it's so
100%.
important. This goes to what you're saying. But one thing I'd like to point out is it makes it very clear to me that Israelis are indigenous to the area, because obviously anybody that is from Lebanon or from Palestine, the first thing they would think about when they want to defend themselves is burn down olive trees and burn down cedar trees, right?
100%. These goddamn trees that have been here for thousands of years, that predate us and our very existence, they gotta go. That's step one.
And then try to import trees from Europe that just can't survive. So good. So then here again, like to quote Glenn Greenwald, it continues to be bizarre aspect of U.S. politics that so many American Christians defend Israel even when it attacks Christian villages and churches and kills Americans and Christians, as Israel, I would even go further than often does, systematically does, and even seem grateful to pay for it. And
100%
yes, I'm like,
systematically
how
does,
could
and
they?
then attempts to bury, right? Like this is the part of the narrative of the story that they don't want coming to light. Um, the fact that I mean, and in Lebanon, it must be more challenging for them, right? I mean, how much is it? A third of the population, right? That's Christian in
Yeah,
Lebanon?
I
Yeah.
believe
So,
it's like almost a third. So you got a third Christian, third Sunni, third Shia, and
mhm.
I mean obviously there's other let's factions, but like in a very broad general
Yes,
way.
must be so
And
tough
then
for
here,
them.
look at this before and after. Like you could see the history in the first image. Like these are ancient, like these are buildings that have been there and they're just gone. Just destroy them. They couldn't care less.
100%. Nope.
And they talk about, this is the thing, they talk about Islam and intolerance and something which I think for anybody that's been paying attention and has half a brain cell already knows that how did these villages survive in the Muslim world, whether it's in Lebanon or whether in it's so many, even in Palestine, in Gaza, in West Bank, how are they still there? Yet the second they come into any contact with Israel, they're destroyed.
They cease to exist. It's almost as though the indigenous people of the land, religion came secondary and they had an ability to coexist. And do you know what I mean? They identified with the land. I mean, I know when we'd visit Syria, going to like Bab Tuma, the Christian neighborhood, going to the Jewish neighborhood, it's beyond, it's revoltingly normal and boring if you just talk about how people coexist there compared to the narrative that they attempt to push. But to Israel, whether they're Christian or Jewish or Muslim or atheist or LGBTQ or any label, they're indigenous to the land and they must be removed because that's what settler colonial states do, Ahmed, right?
Here's another video that's a little bit difficult to watch. So I don't know if you actually got a chance to see this before, but this is a nun here, a pattern of anti-Christian attacks by Israelis. Tell me, what kind of people, what kind of person does this? You know what I mean?
People, it reminds me of movies of Jim Crow, South, like America. If you see any of those movies, if you're Black and in the wrong place, which would have been at that time any place, your life was in immediate danger. And that's the reality of the West Bank, of Jerusalem, of being Palestinian, being non-Israeli in that area. This is what you're subjected to.
Yeah, this is the reality of their life. And,
And at any moment, like completely random, like Shubadak fiha, she's walking in the opposite direction. Like what evil possessed him in that moment? Like I need to attack this person who poses no threat
and
to me.
just to point out, like this is completely against any ethics of Islam. The Prophet ﷺ hosted Christians in his masjid and they debated and he still hosted them. It was respectful, and he respected the people of the book,
100%.
right? So this idea is like very foreign and alien to anything that to do with Islamic values. And this is why even a lot of Jewish societies and Christian societies always not just survived, but thrived in the Islamic world, right? Like, Egypt's a very Islamic country, right? And there are very strong Christian populations there.
Okay, listen. So I lived in Syria for a couple of years. I moved there after high school, 2006 to 2009. I came back right before the revolution started, and I realized something. Okay, growing up here, and this is despite the fact that I had very yani politically aware parents. We had a lot of open conversations in our house. We knew so much about the world, about Zionism versus Judaism, about the people of the book, about Christianity. I didn't realize that I'd subconsciously picked up a narrative that it was Muslims versus Jews, that there was some truth to it, that somehow the existence of Islam meant that I was posing, I wouldn't say necessarily always a threat, but that I was a thorn in someone's side just because I was Muslim. It was just Muslims versus Jews, right? Until I went to Syria and I lived there for a couple of years. And I'm I'd visited before, but this is me going now as a young adult and being in the society and working and moving around on my own and what have you. And I remember one specific incident, Ahmed, where I missed the bus during Ramadan that would take me from Damascus to the suburb where we were living. And it's Ramadan in Syria, predominantly Muslim. Everything shuts down. Okay, you cannot find a stall owner selling a bottle of water at that point. The buses all stop. You've got this hour of time where the city shuts. Everybody's fasting, right? And so I went to the nearest non-Muslim neighborhood, which was a Jewish neighborhood, and their stores were still open. And I went into the store and I go, Ammo, I missed my bus. And right away he knew what I meant. Okay, this guy takes me in, gives me some dates and a bottle of water, takes me to the back room, gives me sajadat salah, a prayer mat, tells me, "بدك تصلي عمو, you want to pray?" I broke my fast. I prayed in this guy's store. And then he gave me his phone to call my uncle to send me a taxi to come get me to the suburbs. It was just, there's so many incidents like that it's just so eye-opening to me, the stereotype. No, I don't even want to use the word coexisted. We lived in harmony. We continue to live in harmony in the Middle East with other religions. This is the reality on the ground. And anybody who's traveled anywhere in the Middle East can tell you that this is true. The adhan goes off and you have church bells going off. It's sometimes almost simultaneously. There is no tension, it's been superimposed. But the fact that I had somehow incorporated this into my understanding of the world based on the propaganda that I'd been fed here was mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
And I'm
A
sure
lot of it is
Lebanon
projection.
even more so, right? Lebanon, a third of the country is Christian, even more integrated into the society than a place like Syria where there's less numbers.
For sure. I mean, it's a lot of it is projection, right? This kind of attack on Jews has been largely a European phenomenon, right? That gets projected onto us. And to me, it's not particularly interesting. It's not particularly, an argument that I like to get into because, this is your problem, you know. Muslims have historically been protectors of many different, the Christians and the Jewish faith when we were in
And
power.
vice versa. And when we weren't in power, didn't Sayyidina Muhammad SAW send the Muslims to Najashi for protection when they were in Mecca still? Before Hijrah,
Yeah,
the Christian
yeah,
king.
absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
vice
great
versa.
story,
100%. Yani, it is projection, 100%. And it's also obfuscation. If you attach religious motive behind this, it muddies the waters of what is, and I think this is unfortunate, assigning religious intent or religious motive should not be. But in this particular case, it removes the fact that this is settler colonialism, right? That's masquerading as a religion and therefore gets to, like you said, hide behind this projected anti-Semitism. Sorry,
so
I
I'll
took
tell
us
you
off on a
something.
little tangent, but I thought it was really interesting having experienced this firsthand.
No, I mean, in Lebanon, again, I've been there many times. We used to go to the Armenian, area of town, and it was complete. You know what they sell there? Bastarma and sujo.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, I'm a big fan of bastarma and sujo. you
Of
know, and they
course,
have
yeah.
like amazing, oh my God, like just thinking about it, I'm starting to get hungry, but it's so good. I don't think people understand. It's like very normal. Like you go there, nobody looks at you. You don't look at anybody. It's like you're just another person. You're there to get your bastarma and sujo and just like, oh my God, it's
100%.
so good, you know, and eating
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sandwich. Sometimes they have that sujo, like a shawarma on a shawarma type of thing. Like my mouth is watering with like some banadura and like a
Yeah,
little bit of
Mara.
salt,
Like,
you
do we
know.
have any
Yo, I'm telling you. So anyway, and then going from there to some not so great posts. Here, let me share my screen. So let's just talk about a little bit about the ceasefires that have. This is from April 30. The ceasefire is violations that have happened by Israel. It just seems silly and stupid to be calling it a ceasefire, to be honest. I don't know if there's like another word we can use where it's, you know, like
like slow
genocide
down
light,
genocide
you
light?
know,
Yeah.
now with little less genocide, you know. You could see over 1,000 live fire attacks, over 1,200 airstrikes and shelling attacks, 103 military incursions. 11 incidents were recorded on Wednesday alone. So this past Wednesday, a paramedic, Ibrahim Sakar, killed in an Israeli airstrike near Al-Tawam roundabout in northern Gaza. Israeli forces demolished buildings in Al Zaytun neighborhood in Gaza and Al Buraish camp in central Gaza and Rafah. Is, by the way, I don't know if you saw, I haven't like checked it, but somebody posted about this that on Wikipedia, they refer now to Rafah in the past tense. Rafah was a city. Maybe we can do a quick search right now, or our viewers could do a search and let us know. Is that how it appears on Wikipedia now? Is Rafah in the past tense? Since the ceasefire took effect, so-called ceasefire, 824 Palestinians. How was that a ceasefire? Honestly.
Yeah.
824 Palestinians have been killed, including 214 children. How is that like? How do they have the nerve to call that a ceasefire? Honestly, when all it's more than a quarter of the people you're killing are children.
100%.
Israel also continues to hold, which I would say occupy 34 square kilometers beyond agreed withdrawal lines. So not only have they codified their occupation, they do this all the time. The original line where the wall was built was the buffer zone. Now they add another buffer zone to that buffer zone, just continue taking land. Um,
100%. And then that way they can
and
convert the previous buffer zone into settlements. It's like
yeah,
buffer zone, settlement, buffer zone, and then it continues 100%.
and have festivals outside of concentration camps. And withdrawal lines has blocked repairs to electricity, water, sewage, and so again, just completely unhinged, no regard for civilians, for life, for the people there. And that's no surprise to us right now. Aid entry, only 37.5% of agreed humanitarian aid has entered, which is about 225 trucks. They agreed on 600. What was required was minimum of 1,000. So they
Yeah.
need 1,000 minimum. They agreed to 600 and they're only letting in 225. And
Before
fuel
the
deliveries.
genocide, before the genocide, when Gaza still had some agriculture, some farms, some supplies, had electricity, had clean water, to an extent, mind you, it was 500 trucks a day. So you can imagine after 2.5 years of genocide and ethnic cleansing and complete destruction of all of those things, we're at, sorry, what was the number? 225, half of the pre-genocide daily like amount of trucks that were coming in. And this is like, again, they don't have basic like diapers, menstrual products for women,
All the
healthcare,
diapers are going to the
IVs,
diaper
needles.
force.
Well, that makes sense. خلاص ما بدنا diapers. What about the
The diaper
rest of
force
it?
needs all those diapers.
And the trucks, Ahmed, I saw photos and posts. They're sending like candy and carbonated drinks and like what on earth? Like
Yeah,
nothing of like nutritional content or like we're
no.
talking about a population that was starved. I mean, you would imagine someone whose body went through surviving starvation. They need like a very specific, like nutrient dense diet that it's still digestible so that you don't shock their body. And they're sending them candy and carbonated drinks to what? like put their body into shock so that they're not able to recover and digest? Like, what is even on these trucks? Is it even what they need? I am 1000% sure it's not, because I know for sure, tents weren't getting in, sleeping bags and like other like what when the rain was happening, they weren't receiving any of the things that they needed. So even the trucks that are going in, I would be shocked if 10% of those were supplies that were needed.
If you remember before this so-called ceasefire, where they let in some flour and they actually caught mixed into the flour,
Yes.
was it oxycontin or oxycodone? One of
Yes.
these like
Yes.
very highly addictive drugs that are killing, droves of people across the world and in the US and other Western countries. And they were lacing it into the flour and
Yeah.
into that stuff, right? To
Yeah.
get them hooked on it.
Because it makes perfect sense that the country that is committing and I'm using this very loosely, that is committing genocide is now the one that's controlling what gets let in. It makes perfect sense, right? Your friend is in an abusive relationship and you want to make sure that you get your friend help, that you go to the abuser and you're like, would you mind, please? Like, I know you're starving this person, but could you let in some food and I'm going to trust you to do it? What's right?
And you are fully in charge of everything
You're
that goes
fully in
in and out.
charge. 100%. Makes perfect sense.
It's just upside down, bizarre world, right? It's completely crazy. So just a little bit of a shift here in what we're talking about, but I did want to give people an update on Lebanon and on Palestine because, unfortunately, maybe people are worn out. Maybe people have bought into a little bit that there's a ceasefire, whether it's in Lebanon, whether it's in Palestine. But the reality is they're just continuing the genocide. It's just rebranded. It's the same thing. They're using other tactics. And it's, imagine going through a genocide for almost 2.5, 3 years now. And then at the end of it, we're just going to do genocide light now instead of getting them some actual relief to take them. Like what the world should be doing is going full force into providing the Palestinians everything that they need to come out of it. But instead, they're just continuing the genocide.
And
It's
preventing
just
people from leaving, medical evacuations. I mean, this is genocide light. It's a slowed down version, which was what was happening before. But it's just even more horrific now because the people who survived 2.5 years of genocide, their needs are so complex and intense. And the world, we've reached the conclusion, you would think, right? Like, I don't know, every time I think I have like no hope left in the world, a little bit more dies every day past this genocide. Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
Sorry,
I
you
mean,
wanted to shift here, right?
I did, but just going with what you said, if we Muslims generally try to recite Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays, and there's one part of Dhul Qarnayn where he comes to a people and he asks them, يا ذا القرنين إما أن تعذب وإما أن تتخذ فيهم حسنا. He said, قال أما من ظلم فسوف نعذبه ثم يرد إلى ربه فيعذبه عذابا نكرا. So, this is kind of a little bit of the ability for people to see so much injustice that one day they will be facing their Lord.
Yeah.
I just wanted to
Inshallah.
point that out. Okay, so yeah, I did want to, usually I like to have like nice transitions into the next topic. I don't know, maybe you could come up with one as I share my screen about the Pistachio Wars. So yeah, maybe we go from war on Lebanon to Pistachio Wars. There you go.
I mean, speaking of like people's attention shifting, right? 100%. I was telling you this off camera. How many people are complicit in getting the attention off of and onto where it needs to be? And the pistachios, my friend, they're everywhere. I love pistachios. Don't get me wrong, like I'm telling you, we're Arab. We like sprinkle them on everything, but never thought I would be boycotting pistachio. Look where they've made us. Look what they've made us do.
Honestly. But here,
How
I'm
dare
just going to
they?
report the story a little bit and we can discuss maybe some of the points here. But basically, in late April, a viral firestorm erupted after journalist Matthew Cassell. Are you familiar with Matthew
No,
Cassell? Okay.
no.
Who attempted to dismiss criticism of billionaires Stuart and Linda Resnick as conspiracy theories. One day, maybe I'm going to make a note because I want to talk about this, just the idea of conspiracy theory and where it
Yeah.
came from and how it's used. But yeah, conspiracy theories. But the reality of their wonderful company is no theory. It is a case study in resource colonization. So the Resnicks have built a multi-billion-dollar empire called Wonderful Pistachio. Fiji water Palm Wonderful, I guess that's the pomegranate juice. Okay, by capturing public resources for private profit. They don't just farm, they land grab. And, they try to dismiss this, but when you fact check all of this stuff, it all comes back true. It is a verified fact that the Resnicks use more water than the entire city of Los Angeles. Okay. Like this needs a moment like of pause. They hold a major stake, 58% in the Kern Water Bank, a massive underground reservoir. While California citizens face water restrictions, the residents use billions of gallons to keep their nut trees alive, often using taxpayer funded infrastructure to move that water. So for our viewers, you guys need to like and subscribe and share this, but you can go back to our first podcast, or maybe we can clip some of that when we were discussing, capitalism and all of that. But you see practicality of what that means right here.
100%.
So
What's
then
crazy? The total side note, but it's the same story everywhere. In Alberta, we use, I don't know how much clean water goes to the oil sands. And we have, indigenous communities who have then, like, because they need fresh water for the oil sands. And then we have these indigenous communities who have polluted water and others who have water restrictions and no fresh water, while all the water is funneled to what benefits the economy or whoever it is, right? And then here's the same thing, the same
I mean,
story everywhere.
I would say specific elite economy, right?
100%, yes.
So then let's talk about the Iran connection here. So before 1979, Iran was the world's pistachio king. And
Yep.
today, the US, led by the Resnicks, dominates. And why? Because in this documentary, Pistachio Wars, which I think people should definitely take a look at, because it gives you like a small clip into what happens on other parts of the world affect everybody. And this is just one thing. Like you think about pistachios. Okay, bro, talk about pistachios. Yeah, pistachio. I'm gonna bring up another example that happened in Central America. I'm not sure if you're familiar with some of that, Walaa, but this was even discussed when I had a really good professor actually, we talked about the Cold War, but we'll mention this in just a few minutes, that reveals that the Resnicks have constantly donated to hawkish think tanks, and lobbied the very sanctions that keep Iranian pistachios off the global market. Now, you see how this works? How capitalism and this kind of elite Epstein class work, where they forge the laws that benefit them. And if it means pushing for war and destroying entire civilizations, as long as we're making, I mean, how much money do you need, really?
100%.
So then in April 26th, past April, reports surfaced of a military strikes targeting Iranian agricultural infrastructure, including warehouses. And the conspiracy Castle decries is actually a documented alignment of billionaire interests and U.S. foreign policy. So I'm not saying that maybe I am saying that they did specifically target. I don't know, but like,
They
you
did.
can't just say
No.
conspiracy. There's just too much there,
It's documented before this. This Pistachio Wars, it's a documented. I don't have the details right now because I read these things and then I forget the details, so I can use. It's very limited brain space, yeah, akhi, okay? So like I'm not gonna hang on to names I don't need to know in the moment. But this is documented. We just saw there was just who posted it? Samira Muhyiddin,
It
Iranian
does also
Canadian
great work.
activist. Yeah, amazing work. She just posted they're blowing up the remaining warehouses of pistachio warehouses in Iran. And I'm telling you, this whole pistachio UAE trend, Dubai chocolate and all that, it's linked. Okay. Earmark this, people. I'm going to get to the bottom of it, or somebody will before me, and I'm going to say, I was validated. Okay. But we will find out how all of this is tied together, because if I see one more pistachio latte, pistachio chocolate, pistachio milk, pistachio cream, pistachio spread, it's everywhere. It's all tied in together, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's
Like we said,
something very fishy.
the same way they layer their war crimes. If they're gonna do something, there has to be like multiple levels of benefit to justify what they're doing. Justify, I'm sorry, not in the humane sense. Justify for them to expend the effort and energy to lobby and you know what I mean? And get the wheels cranking on their war machines. It's like, we gotta
Yeah, no.
fire this war machine up. Where and how are we gonna get the most benefit possible?
So I'll say like for when it comes to the water and the privatization, this is actually done, in a sense legally. They've created the law, so it
Yes,
is
yes.
legal for them to do. Although
Yes.
people do argue that it violates the public trust doctrine, which says that the government must use natural resources for its citizens, not just one citizen or two citizens, but like society. Obviously it does. But again,
Last time I mentioned the documentary, The 13th, the law's existence often is something that is done before to benefit. Do you know what I mean? What was that? The documentary goes into the law that was 3 strikes and you're out that Clinton had proposed, knowing that it was created to keep the prisons occupied because they were privatized. So the existence
mhm.
of the law does not make it just. It's like, was this law or these laws put into place to protect the elite and the imperialists and those in power?
Yeah, but and then under international law, the use of economic sanctions to crush commercial competitors is a violation of the UN Charter. They use the kind of American laws to privatize the water. International law, nobody, they've destroyed that anyway for a very long time, especially when it comes to the US. So who cares? They just do whatever they need to do, although it is under. So here's just kind of a little bit more context about this, which is if you've heard of United Fruit, this is like United Fruit 2.0. And this is what I was talking about when the United Fruit Company, now known as Chiquita, if you know about the bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they use the US military to protect banana profits in Central America. People should look into Guatemala, which, just like you'd think like over bananas. Look at the massacres and destructions that happened because of that. And, again, they're using the same or similar types of whether it's sanctions and now strikes to continue this, control over, different
Somebody should list how
sectors.
many Someone should list how many sectors, because it sounds innocent, right? Banana, like bananas, using banana bread and whatnot. But it would be very interesting to see like how many sectors now, from things like the blue cobalt in the Congo to the bananas in Guatemala to the pistachios to, right? And so on and so forth, do they have control of by the same means?
Yeah. Um, they are practicing, the Resnicks are practicing a form of ecological settler colonialism. They are treating a finite public resource as their private bank account, while local communities, largely migrant farm workers, suffer from dry wells and chemically tainted water. She mentions here in the post also art washing by donating hundreds of millions to museums and universities. The Resnicks buy social immunity when a journalist like Kissel frames criticism as anti-Semitic or conspiratorial. He is acting as a foot soldier for the PR machine, shielding a billionaire monopoly from legitimate anti-colonial critique of resource theft. So I'm glad I put that out. Uh, there is a documentary called Inside the Pistachio Wars. Take a look at that. You can let us know in the comments what you think of the documentary and if there's anything that we missed that we should highlight moving forward, please let us know. Any comment on that before I move on?
No, no, I think this is fascinating stuff. So thanks for bringing it up. The agro-imperialism point, I think, is just very intriguing to me. You are frozen.
And so jumping back into a little bit about Palestine, but more from an international law perspective, which, we tend to focus on. There was this tweet, which is going to lead to, honestly, something that made me laugh. But let's start here. Asal Rod, who does, again, great work. She quotes the Prime Minister of Israel, and she said, so he's talking about the Sumud Flotilla, which we will get into in just a little bit if we have time. But she's saying that Gaza is not your territory; you are an occupier, which is just objectively true. Like in every international law, the ICJ, all that, this is just an objective fact. So there's nothing to argue here really, except if you're a Zionist supporter and your brain is mush. Then you will say something like this: under international law, when you gain a piece of territory in defense of war, it belongs to you. In addition, there is no peace agreement between Israel and Egypt, has no claim over its territory. The Palestinians, meanwhile, did not claim it when it was under Egyptian rule. It passed from Egyptian to Israeli hands, and under international law, it belongs to Israel.
I feel
So I
like
have a nice,
under international law, comma, which is sometimes biased against Israel if used applied to us, however stands when we want to exploit it for the purposes of propaganda, comma, something like, just like a little disclaimer there, because it's their relationship with international law in and of itself is hilarious, right? It's anti-Semitic and they're
yeah.
all biased against us. But under international law, we gained this piece of territory.
Like, like usually I just like to laugh at this, but I wanted to include it here just to show like viewers, one thing I'm gonna reference this more, I think, throughout our podcasts is that one thing that Allah talks about when you get into Jannah is, or like paradise, is like لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابة. And it's
Oh
such an
God.
underappreciated feature of paradise
Wallahi.
that لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابة. Like, come on, you really appreciate.
This is the stages of life, Ahmed. Okay, when you're young, you tell your kids about Jannah, you're like, what superhero do you want to be, Baba? Mama, who do you can have whatever you want. You can play your games in real life and you're the character. When you're older, you're like, لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا that's all I need. I just want to sit there and
Honestly.
not hear these people speak.
Yeah, for real. Like just getting past that stage, I think would be like that's heaven right there.
That is heaven. That is heaven
You
to
know what?
not have to hear this garbage, like this vile, like, ugh, that they just constantly spew. That is hilarious and yet still somehow like just rage inducing. But yeah, anywho, continuing
So
from
last night I
that.
was talking to Miles and I want to have him on a podcast and then we can just discuss a little bit more about life and religion, like just more of an open kind of conversation about relationships, about
Mm-hmm.
life, about religion. So, but I think part of it is we can actually go into a little bit about paradise and just highlight some of the kind of features and how cool it will be. And I have some really interesting tidbits that, you know, there's general things that are mentioned, but there are a few things that have stuck with me that I think most people don't really reflect or think about, like this one, لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابة. Have you ever heard that from anybody, to be honest?
No, I've thought of it myself, but it's not one that's commonly featured. No,
Right?
no, that
So
people are
there's
like,
other
that's what
little
I want to go
tidbits like
for.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting.
Um,
We should have it.
so
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about a little bit about this international law that this guy just makes up, which is a modern international law rejects the acquisition of territory through force, regardless of whether it's, see, they don't understand. Like they think if they say defensive, that means they could just blow up the whole world. Like let's just destroy everybody, kill everything, burn the entire system to the ground, and we say defensive, and that means anything goes. That's not a thing.
100%.
Sorry, dude. Right. So the UN Charter Article 2.4 prohibits the threat or use of force against territorial integrity, and Security Council Resolution 242 explicitly affirms the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by war. So that's his first point, just to kind of rebut that. And again, usually I just like to laugh at them because I don't take anything they say seriously. Once you're a pro-Zionist, I automatically know you will say any string of words together in order to justify your genocide and apartheid state, continuing their genocide and apartheid. So, that's just like a default. But I think it's important sometimes for people that maybe don't have the time or don't work in the field to show them that, what they just actually make it up. That's all it
Yeah,
is. So again,
100%.
the peace treaty. While Egypt waived its claims, it did not and legally could not transfer title of the territory to Israel. The claim that Palestinians did not seek the territory under Egyptian rule ignores the formal political structures of the time. The all Palestinian government was established in Gaza in 1948 and recognized by the Arab League. It asserted Palestinian sovereignty over the region decades before 1967, meaning the land was never legally vacant. And again, the last point that he made there, the international law distinguishes between military control and sovereign ownership. So the Fourth Geneva Convention, Articles 2 and 47, and the Hague Regulations, Article 43, mandate that an occupying power is only a temporary administrator. The 2024 ICJ advisor opinion reaffirmed that Israel's presence in the territory is an occupation and does not grant legal title.
I mean, thank you, Ahmed. That was very detailed. But, for the average viewer, listener, anytime a Zionist starts with under international law, you just disregard everything after that. Okay? Just assume they're just...
Hold that thought, because
There's more?
we just read this.
International Hasbara. Okay, Maureen Rabbani is king. Okay, this guy is.
So
if you're
good.
not following him on Substack, on Instagram, on X, on everywhere, follow this guy. This is international Hasbara. Yes, 100%. It is somewhere out there. There is a document, guys, that basically legitimizes everything they're doing under international law. Okay, this is where they pull this from.
International Hasbara. I think we need to start using that term.
I mean, international, I think I actually prefer it to international law, because international law at this point, I have zero faith in. It is completely irrelevant. I mean, Gaza exposed it for what it is. So I think international hospital law is much more aligned with the truth.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to start using this already. So let me share my screen here, because I don't know if you've been following the Sumud Flotilla. So you can see the State Department here, Rania Khalik, which has been doing also great work. The U.S. State Department has condemned. You'd think if we were living in not bizarro world or upside down land, it would be they're condemning Israel, but instead they are condemning the pro-Hamas flotilla, and essentially gives the U.S. a green light to whatever crimes Israel commits against the flotilla and activists. So I'm sure Israel will not take. What do you think? Did Israel take advantage of this or not?
To be honest with you, I don't think Israel needs this to take advantage of. But I mean, I think this will be their cherry on top, right? Was it 10 years ago that they shot up and killed activists on the Avi Mara? Is that, if I'm remembering the name right? They don't need this.
I love this. Like, you know who does this a lot? What's his name? I think it's Mark Levine. He just strings together like a bunch of words: radical Islamic jihadi, Marxist, left wing, like he just says all these words together to like scare people.
Then he's like,
and it's like, pro Hamas global flotilla. Like, but
yeah,
they just
100%.
say whatever. Like,
100%. And I mean, like, okay, like, jokes aside of what Israel is or is not going to do, this level of state, and this is when we talk about Islamophobia, when we talk about the legitimization of war crimes, of, anti-Palestinian racism, of suppression of Palestinian solidarity, it is different when it's institutionalized, right? I mean, having the U.S. Department of State issue something on this 100 legitimizes and whitewashes what's going to come next, which is exactly what we saw regarding with the encampments, right? When they're called pro-Hamas encampments, and that's unwittingly echoed by government officials. It legitimizes what happened at UCLA when they came in and they were busting kids with what would they brought? But they brought pipes with them. Yani, it's 100% legitimization and whitewashing of what's going to come next. So Allah yissar what we're going to see with this particular Global Sumud Flotilla, what comes out of it. May Allah protect them and be with them. But seeing this level of demonization, it does hit different.
And just before I move on, I think we need to reject this idea, like when they continuously use Arabic words or Islamic words and make it sound like scary, like Sharia law. Yeah, Sharia means law,
Yeah.
That's what Sharia means.
You're being redundant, okay?
Yeah, like the madrasas, like madrasa means school, when I was young and I went to public school, my mom would be like, Rayah al madrasa, like it was public school here. And like it was, but they're going to their madrasas, like, oh no, what are they doing there? Like, yeah, and using Arabic numbers.
Insanity.
So here again, look at this. This is Tommy Pigot, Pigot.
Piget
um,
sounds, I like it.
Sometimes I like saying their names wrong because they always say our names wrong. So just
100%.
I'm gonna take advantage of it. But basically, the U.S. condemns the Global Sumud Flotilla as a baseless, counterproductive stunt. Yeah, it's very counterproductive to our genocide and ethnic cleansing. Stop
100%.
being so counterproductive by a sanctioned pro-Hamas entity like. Uh-oh.
Who is
Um,
now that they've been sanctioned? Was the Department of State thingy, the State Department statement now sanctioned them? Oh no, I'm thinking proscribed, like as a terrorist organization.
yeah.
Sorry, never mind, never mind.
So unlike organized assistance mechanisms like, the Israeli ones that are letting in these scores and waves of aid and helping people out, you guys are doing this publicity stunt when we should go through our normal mechanism of
Mhm.
ethnic cleansing and genocide that has been
How
so
dare
successful.
you try to work around our abuser? How dare you? Take decisive action, Israel.
Humanitarian groups, including Norwegian Refugee Council, Save the Children, Oxfam, all these Hamas-linked terrorist groups, and UNICEF have repeatedly warned that the current aid system is nowhere near meeting basic needs, with supplies far below what is required to sustain the population. Yet, Washington is attacking these people trying to deliver relief. Great job, buddy. More than 200 activists from this Global Sumud Flotilla were seized at sea by Israel forces and taken to the Greek island of Crete. Is that right? If there are any Greek people watching, you could let me know. Were released earlier today with photos showing visible injuries, including bruising, cuts, swelling, and so on. There's also a couple of the organizers or coordinators that were held, including Diego Avila and Saif Abu Kashik. Saif particularly is Palestinian. He was taken, they didn't take them near like the shores of Israel. They went out, I believe, 600 nautical miles
Yeah,
out to kidnap them in international waters. Let me just talk a little bit about the illegality. So first of all, the blockade is illegal, right? It's a form of collective punishment under
the
Article
blockade
33
on
of the Fourth.
Gaza.
Yeah. The ICJ ruling of 2024 determined that Israel's occupation and restrictive regime sustaining it is blockade is unlawful. You are not allowed. So I'm telling you, remember when we spoke earlier about layering war crimes on top of
100%.
each other? This is what I was referring to when we're going to see how they layer it. The freedom of navigation, it's illegal to abduct people in the high seas or international waters.
Whoa,
Um,
whoa, did you just say
or
abduct? This is not abduction. Jeez, watch your mouth.
they picked up,
Picked up. There you
they
go.
assisted,
Intercepted.
intercepted. No, I don't know. That seems still a little too harsh.
No, no, it's like they're coming to attack these pro-Hamas and they
They
intercepted them.
Ubered.
Ubered. Nautically Ubered these people.
Yeah, and then there's a warship may only board a foreign merchant ship if there are grounds for suspected piracy, slave trade, whatever. Which obviously, as a humanitarian activism, this does not meet any of these criteria. Arbitrary and extrajudicial detention also illegal. Again, I have more information about this and like the specific laws. And then jurisdiction and sovereignty, the lack of legal mandate. So again, just layers of war crimes on top of each other. But as we reach the end of this podcast, I just wanted to give you a chance to comment.
I think this was a great episode. There's so much, as always, to tie in. We, inshallah, are talking about doing a short update sometime this week. So it'll be up on our channel. Instead of going in depth, it'll just be one topic, one quick update on something and maybe this week we'll go into the Global Sumud Flotilla as things continue to, unfortunately, we know they're going to start to unravel very fast. So keep your eyes on the Global Sumud Flotilla and reject the narratives, my people.
Yalla. Thanks for that. See you all soon. Make
Thank you
sure to
so
like,
much.
subscribe, share, turn on notifications. I don't know, give us a high five, whatever
All
it
the
takes.
buttons. Smash the buttons. Thanks a lot. Assalamu alaikum.